The empire was very old. It spread across 47 star systems. The royal family had ruled for thousands of years. Their palace on the planet Prime was made of crystal that glowed in the light of 3 moons. No human had ever walked inside those walls. The thought humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous. They called humans the violent children of the galaxy. Princess was walking in the royal gardens when she saw the fire in the sky. Something was falling. It came down fast, burning through the air and crashed into the flower beds near the old fountain. Guards ran toward the crash, followed them. The thing that had fallen was a small ship, an escape pod. It was broken and burning, and something was moving inside. A hand pushed through the twisted metal, then an arm. Then a man pulled himself out of the wreck. He was covered in blood. His uniform was torn. He crawled forward on his hands and knees, leaving red marks on the white stones of the garden path. The guards pointed their weapons at him. "Human," one of them said. The word sounded like a curse. The man stopped crawling. He looked up. His face was cut and bruised. One of his eyes was swollen shut, but the other eye was clear and brown and very calm. "Kill him," the guard captain said. "He does not belong here." The man did not beg. He did not cry. He just looked at. She did not know why, but she felt something strange when their eyes met. Something she could not explain. "Wait," she said. The guards stopped. They looked at her with surprise. The princess had never given them orders before. "Your Highness," the captain said, "this is a human. They are dangerous. Our laws say." "I know what our laws say," walked closer to the bleeding man. "What is your name?" The man took a breath. It clearly hurt him to speak. "Daniel," he said. "Daniel Cole, Sergeant, United Earth Defense Corps." "How did you come here, Daniel Cole?" "My ship was attacked. Raiders. I was the only one who made it to the escape pod." He coughed and blood came out of his mouth. "If you are going to kill me, at least let me stand. I would like to die on my feet." Looked at him for a long moment. He was so small compared to the guards, so fragile. His life was so short compared to hers. She would live for 1,000 years. He would be lucky to see 100. And yet there was something in him that was not small at all. "Bring him to the medical wing," she said. The captain stared at her. "Your Highness, the Queen will." "The Queen is my mother. I will speak to her. Now do as I say." The guards picked up the human. He passed out as they carried him away. Watched them go, and she wondered what she had just done. Queen was not happy. She called her daughter to the throne room that same night. The queen was tall and beautiful, with silver hair and eyes like cold stars. She had ruled the empire for 600 years. She did not like surprises. "You brought a human into my palace," the queen said. Her voice was soft, but there was danger in it. "Explain yourself." Stood before her mother. She kept her back straight and her voice steady. "He was dying. I could not let them kill a dying man. He is human. His kind are not welcome here. He is a person. He was hurt and alone. Is that not reason enough to show mercy?" The queen looked at her daughter for a long time. Something moved in her cold eyes. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was something else. "You have always been too soft," the queen said. "Too quick to feel. It is a weakness. Or perhaps it is a strength." The queen almost smiled. Almost. "The human may stay until he is healed. Then he will be sent away. Is that understood?" "Yes, mother." "And do not grow attached. Humans live such short lives. It would be a waste of your heart." Bowed and left the throne room. She did not answer her mother. She did not know what to say. Daniel Cole woke up 3 days later. He was in a room made of white stone. Strange machines hummed around him. Tall, pale figures in medical robes moved back and forth, studying him with curious eyes. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his whole body. "Do not move," a voice said. "Your injuries are serious." Daniel looked at the doctor. The alien was almost 7 feet tall, with silver skin and large golden eyes. Daniel had seen before, but only in pictures. They were even more strange in person. "Where am I?" Daniel asked. "The royal palace. You crashed in the princess's garden. You are lucky to be alive." "Lucky?" Daniel laughed, but it hurt. "That is not a word I would use. The princess saved you. She told the guards not to kill you. She asked that you be healed." Daniel was quiet for a moment. He remembered the princess. He remembered her face, young and kind, with eyes that seemed to see right through him. "Why?" he asked. "Why would she save me? I am human." The doctor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is what everyone is asking. The court is very confused. The princess has never done anything like this before." Daniel lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his ship. He thought about his crew, all of them dead now. He thought about his sisters back on Earth, who probably thought he was dead too. He should have died in that crash, but he did not. A princess had saved him for reasons he did not understand. Maybe there was a reason he was still alive. Maybe there was something he was supposed to do. Daniel Cole decided he would find out what it was. Over the next few weeks he healed slowly. The doctors were amazed by him. They had never treated a human before. They found his body strange and interesting. His bones were heavy. His muscles were different from theirs. His heart beat faster. "You are a curious species," one doctor told him. "So fragile and yet so hard to kill." Daniel just smiled. Humans had heard that before. The princess came to visit him on the 4th week. She came alone, without guards, wearing a simple dress instead of her royal robes. She sat down in a chair beside his bed and looked at him with those deep, knowing eyes. "You are looking better," she said. "Thanks to you." Daniel sat up. "It still hurt, but not as much. I never thanked you properly for saving my life." "You do not need to thank me." "Yes, I do. Your guards wanted to kill me. Your people hate humans. You had no reason to help me, but you did. That means something." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you ask to stand? When you thought you were going to die, why did that matter?" Daniel thought about the question. On Earth there is an old saying, a man should stand up for what he believes in, even if he is alone, even if he is afraid, even if he knows he will lose. Standing is not about winning. It is about honor, about showing who you are even at the end. The princess looked at him. Something changed in her face, something soft and sad and beautiful. "I have never met anyone like you," she said. "I have never met anyone like you either." They both smiled, and in that moment something began. Neither of them knew what it was yet, but they both felt it, a connection, a bond, the beginning of something that would change both of their lives forever. The princess and the soldier talked for hours that day, and when she finally left, Daniel Cole knew one thing for certain. He would never forget her, not as long as he lived. 3 months passed on Prime. Daniel Cole was no longer a patient in the medical wing. The Queen had given him a small room in the outer palace. He was not a prisoner, but he was not free either. He could not leave the palace grounds. He could not go home. But Daniel did not want to leave, not anymore. The princess visited him often. She always had a reason. She wanted to learn about human music. She wanted to understand Earth history. She wanted to know why humans celebrated birthdays or shook hands when they met. Daniel answered all her questions. He knew they were just excuses. She did not really care about birthdays. She came to see him, and he looked forward to her visits more than anything else in his life. Was different from the other. They were cold and distant and proud. She was warm. She laughed easily. She asked questions that no one else asked. She listened when he spoke. Daniel learned things about her too. He learned that she was lonely. The palace was full of people, but none of them truly knew her. They saw the princess, the crown, the future queen. They did not see her. I am surrounded by thousands, she told him one night, and I have no one. You have me, Daniel said. She looked at him with those golden eyes. Do I? Yes, for as long as you want me. She smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. That is the kindest thing anyone has ever said to me. The peace did not last. On a cold morning in the 5th month, a ship arrived at the palace. It was large and black and covered with the symbols of a powerful noble house. The servants began to whisper. The guards stood. Something important was happening. Daniel found out what it was when came to his room that evening. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. What happened? Daniel asked. Lord has come to the palace. Her voice was flat and empty. He has asked for my hand in marriage. Daniel felt something cold in his chest. What did you say? I said nothing. My mother is pleased. The match is perfect, she says. Lord controls the northern territories. The marriage would make the empire stronger. But you do not want to marry him. Sat down heavily. It does not matter what I want. I am a princess. Princesses do not choose. That is not right. It is the way things are. Daniel was quiet for a moment. He had seen Lord arriving. The Lord was tall, even for his face was hard and cruel. His eyes were like ice. He looked at everything like he owned it. He looked at people like they were things. What is he like? Daniel asked. Lord. Shuddered. He is powerful. He is rich. He has won many battles. But when he looks at me, I feel like prey, like something to be caught and kept. He does not see me as a person. He sees me as a prize. Anger burned in Daniel's heart. He had felt anger before many times, but this was different. This was deeper. This was personal. There must be something we can do, he said. There is nothing. My mother has already started planning the ceremony. In 3 months I will be his wife. She stood up to leave. Daniel could see tears in her eyes. She was trying to hide them, but he could see. Wait, he said. She stopped at the door. Daniel walked over to her. His mind was racing. He remembered something from his training on Earth, something from the old military traditions, and he remembered something had told him about customs. You told me once about he said, the sworn protector, someone who stands for another, fights for another. Turned around. That is an ancient custom. It is rarely used anymore. But it is still valid. It is still law. Yes, the oath is sacred. It cannot be broken. But Daniel, you do not understand. The one who takes the oath is bound until death. They give up everything, their freedom, their future, their very life. I understand. No, you do not. They cannot leave. They cannot marry. They cannot serve anyone else. They exist only to protect. It is a sacrifice that lasts until the end. Daniel took her hand. It was cool and soft like silk. He said, my life already belongs to you. You saved me. Let me spend the rest of my days protecting you. Daniel, I know what I am offering. I know what it costs. But I also know that I cannot stand by and watch you be given to a man who sees you as a prize. I cannot do nothing while you suffer. If there is a way to stand between you and that future, I will take it, even if it costs me everything. Tears fell down his face. You are a fool. I know. You are human. You will die in 50 years, maybe less. Then let me spend those 50 years guarding you. She stared at him. Her golden eyes were wide and bright with tears. Why? Why would you do this for me? Daniel did not look away. Because in my whole life, no one has ever looked at me the way you do. Like I matter, like I am worth something. You saved my life, now let me give it purpose. The princess was silent for a long time. Outside, the 3 moons of Prime rose in the sky. Their light came through the window and made everything silver. Then placed her hand on Daniel's head. It was a formal gesture. He had seen it in the old records, the acceptance of the oath. Daniel Cole of Earth, she said, and her voice shook only a little, I accept you as mine. You will stand at my side. You will guard my life, and I will honor your sacrifice for as long as you live." "I accept," Daniel said. The words hung in the air between them. Something old and powerful had been invoked. Daniel could feel it, even though he did not fully understand it. He was her champion now, her protector, her shield. And nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning the court learned what had happened. The reaction was immediate. It was violent. Lord raged in the throne room. His face was dark with fury. "A human," he shouted. "She has named a human as her. This is an insult, a mockery." The nobles murmured in agreement. Many of them had never even seen a human before Daniel. They thought of humans as animals, beasts who had crawled out of the mud on a small planet and somehow figured out how to build ships. Queen sat on her throne and watched the chaos with cold eyes. Her face showed nothing. "The oath is sacred," she said when the noise died down. "It cannot be undone. My daughter has made her choice." "Then let the choice be tested." Lord stepped forward. His eyes were like fire. "I invoke the right of challenge. Let this human prove his worth against a true warrior. If he fails, the oath is void, and the princess will be mine." The queen was silent for a moment, then she nodded. "Very well. The challenge is accepted. Tomorrow at dawn, the human will face a champion of Lord's choosing. The fight will continue until one yields or dies." She looked at Daniel, who stood beside at the edge of the room. There was something in her eyes, not hatred, not hope, something in between. "Prepare yourself, human," the queen said. "Tomorrow, you will show us what your kind is truly made of." Daniel bowed. He felt his hand find his and squeeze tight. Tomorrow, he would fight. Tomorrow, he would face a warrior from a species older and stronger and faster than humanity. Tomorrow he might die. But he was not afraid. He had made a promise, and Daniel Cole always kept his promises. No matter the cost. The night before the duel was the longest of Daniel's life. He sat alone in his room and cleaned the sword they had given him. It was a blade, curved and sharp, lighter than any weapon he had used on Earth. He tested its balance again and again. He needed to know it perfectly. Came to him when the moons were high in the sky. She did not knock. She just walked in and stood before him with tears on her face. "You cannot win," she said. "I have done this to you. I have killed you." Daniel put down the sword. "Who am I fighting?" "Commander, he is Lord's personal guard captain. He has won 17 duels. 17, Daniel. No one has ever defeated him. No one has even hurt him." "Tell me about him." Wiped her eyes. "He is nearly 8 feet tall. He has trained for 300 years. His reflexes are faster than any human can match. He will cut you down before you can even lift your blade." Daniel nodded slowly. He had expected something like this. Lord would not have picked a weak champion. "What are his weaknesses?" Daniel asked. "He has none. Everyone has weaknesses." "Thought about it? He is proud. He expects to win quickly. He has never fought a battle that lasted more than a few minutes. He does not need to. His speed and strength always end things fast." Daniel smiled. It was a strange smile, calm and certain. "Then I will make it last." Stared at him. "What do you mean?" "Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest but we have something that makes other species afraid of us. Something they do not understand." "What is that?" Daniel looked at her with steady brown eyes. "We do not quit, ever. You can cut us, you can hurt us, you can break us, and we will get back up, again and again and again. That is what makes humans dangerous, not our strength, our stubbornness, our refusal to fall." He picked up the sword again. "Commander expects a quick fight. He expects me to die in the first minute. I will not give him what he expects. I will survive. I will bleed. I will hurt. And I will keep fighting until he is the one who breaks." Looked at him for a long time. Then she moved forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a gesture of deep trust among her people. "Fight my champion," she whispered, "and do not stop." "I will not." They stayed like that for a moment, forehead to forehead, breathing the same air, then stepped back and left the room. Daniel was alone again. He closed his eyes and thought of Earth. He thought of his sisters. He thought of the green hills and blue skies of home. Then he thought of her smile, her voice, the way she looked at him like he was something precious. He picked up his sword and began to practice. The grand arena was full when dawn came. Thousands had gathered to watch. They sat in rows that climbed up to the sky, their pale faces turned toward the fighting ground below. The air was cold and smelled of flowers and fear. Daniel walked into the arena alone. He wore simple clothes and carried the curved sword. He looked small surrounded by all those tall, silver beings. He looked weak. The crowd laughed. Then Commander entered. He was a monster, nearly 8 feet tall with muscles like carved stone. His skin was the color of polished silver. His eyes glowed like golden fire. He carried a blade that hummed with energy, and he moved like a predator who had never known defeat. The crowd cheered. Lord sat in a special box with the nobles. He was smiling. This would be easy, his smile said. The human would fall and the princess would be his. Queen sat in the royal box with beside her. The queen's face showed nothing, but was pale as snow. Her hands gripped the edge of her seat so hard that her knuckles were white. A horn sounded. The duel began. Moved like lightning, his blade cut through the air in a blur of light. Daniel barely dodged, throwing himself to the side. The energy blade missed him by inches. Attacked again and again and again. Daniel could not match his speed. He could not match his strength. All he could do was survive. He blocked when he could. He dodged when he had to. He took cuts on his arms, his legs, his face. Blood began to flow. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The crowd stopped laughing. His attacks were still fast, still powerful, but Daniel was still standing, still fighting, still bleeding but not falling. At the 10-minute mark, something began to change. Was breathing harder. His attacks were coming slower, not by much, just a little, but Daniel noticed. They were powerful, but they burned bright and fast. They were not built for long fights, had never needed to fight for more than a few minutes. He had never faced an enemy who simply refused to die. Daniel had trained differently. On Earth, soldiers learned to march for days without rest. They learned to fight through pain and exhaustion. They learned that the human body could take more punishment than it should ever have to and keep going. Daniel kept going. 15 minutes was slowing. His golden eyes showed confusion. This was not supposed to happen. The human should have fallen by now. 20 minutes, Daniel stopped retreating. He began to advance. The crowd fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. They watched as the small, bleeding human pushed forward against the giant warrior who had never been defeated. Swung his blade in desperation. Daniel ducked under it and struck. His sword bit into his leg. Silver blood sprayed the ground. It was the first wound had taken in 100 years. The commander roared in shock and pain. He swung wildly. Daniel moved around him, patient and steady. He struck again. Another wound on his arm. Was stumbling now. His great strength was fading. His speed was gone. He was not used to pain. He was not used to fighting someone who simply would not stop. Daniel was covered in blood. Most of it was his own. He could barely see out of one eye. His left arm hung useless at his side, but he kept fighting. He struck again and again and again. Finally, Commander fell to one knee. His sword dropped from his hand. His chest heaved with exhaustion. Daniel stood over him, his blade at the giant's throat. "Yield," Daniel said. Looked up at him. There was no anger in his golden eyes now, only shock, only respect. "I yield," said. The arena was silent for one long moment. Then a sound began. It started small, just a few people, then more, then more. They were cheering, not all of them, but many. They had come to watch a human die. Instead, they had watched something they would tell their children about for centuries. They had watched a human refuse to lose. Daniel turned toward the royal box. His vision was going dark at the edges. He had lost too much blood, but he had enough strength for one last thing. He bowed to, low and formal, the bow of a champion to his princess. "For you," he said. His voice was weak, but in the silence of the arena everyone heard it. "Always for you." Then he collapsed. Was on her feet before he hit the ground. She ran down from the royal box, pushing past guards and nobles. She reached him as the medical team arrived. "Save him," she ordered. Her voice shook with fear and love and desperate hope. "Save my champion." Queen watched from her seat. Her cold eyes were thoughtful. She had expected the human to lose. She had expected to see the limits of his kind. Instead, she had seen something else. She had seen what humans were truly made of. And for the first time in a very long time, the Queen was impressed. Daniel Cole woke up in the medical wing again. It was becoming a habit. The doctors told him he had almost died. His body had lost too much blood. His wounds were deep and many. A normal human would not have survived. But Daniel was not normal. Something in him refused to give up, even when his heart was barely beating. He healed slowly this time. It took 2 weeks before he could sit up, 3 weeks before he could walk. The doctors studied him like he was a miracle. "Your kind should not exist," one of them told him. "Your bodies are so weak, and yet you survive things that would kill any other species." "We are stubborn," Daniel said. "That is an understatement." Came to visit him every day. She brought him food. She read to him from old stories. She held his hand when the pain was bad. She did not care what the court thought. She did not care about the whispers. "They are calling you the human champion," she told him. "The story of your duel is spreading across the empire. People are singing songs about you. I hope they are good songs." "They are. They call you the man who would not fall." Daniel smiled, but it hurt. Everything hurt. "I fell eventually." "Only after you won." She squeezed his hand. "You saved me." Daniel has withdrawn his marriage proposal. He left the palace 3 days ago. He could not stand the shame. "Good. He was not worthy of you." "No one is worthy of me." She smiled, and there was mischief in it, except perhaps a stubborn human who refuses to die. Daniel laughed, and that hurt too, but it was worth it. The weeks passed. Daniel grew stronger. He began to train again, slowly at first, then harder. He knew his fight with was not the end. It was only the beginning. He had made enemies in the court, powerful enemies who would not forget. He was right. The Harvest Festival came 3 months after the duel. It was the biggest celebration of the year. The palace was full of lights and music. Nobles came from across the empire to attend, had insisted that Daniel come as her official escort. "Are you sure?" he asked her. "I will cause talk." "Let them talk. You are my champion. You belong at my side." So Daniel put on formal clothes and stood beside the princess in the great hall. He watched the dancers spin across the floor. He tasted strange foods and listened to strange music. And all the while he watched. Something felt wrong. He could not explain it. It was just a feeling, a tightness in his chest, a whisper in the back of his mind. The old soldier instincts that had kept him alive through 100 battles. Danger was coming. He moved closer to. His eyes scanned the crowd. Everything looked normal, happy, safe. Then the lights went out. The great hall fell into darkness. People screamed. Bodies pushed against each other in the confusion. Daniel could not see anything, but he could hear. He heard a blade being drawn. He did not think, he moved. His body threw itself between and the darkness. He felt something punch into his shoulder, hot pain, cold metal. A knife. The lights came back on. Daniel stood in front of his princess with a blade buried in his shoulder. 3 figures lay on the ground around him. 2 were dead, killed by his hands in the darkness. The 3rd was held down by palace guards. They were assassins. They had come for the princess. And Daniel had stopped them. Blood ran down his arm and dripped onto the polished floor. The pain was enormous, but he did not move. He stood like a wall between and any threat that might still be hiding in the crowd. "Clear the hall," he ordered. His voice was strong and commanding. "Lock down the palace. No one leaves until we know there are no more killers." The guards obeyed him without question. Later, Daniel would realize how strange that was. He was a human, an outsider. But in that moment, no one cared about what species he was. They only cared that he was right. The investigation that followed was long and terrible. The assassins were traced back to Lord. He had hired them. He had planned every detail. His goal was simple: kill the princess and her human champion at the same time. With them gone, the succession would be thrown into chaos. And in chaos, a man like could seize power. But was not alone. The investigators found a web of conspirators, nobles who hated the princess for her new ideas, officers who feared humanity and wanted Daniel dead, servants who had been paid to look the other way. The conspiracy reached high into the court, very high. Queen was forced to act. She arrested the traitors. She stripped them of their titles. She sent them to the prison moons where no one would ever hear from them again. Lord tried to run. He almost made it. But the Queen's fleet caught him at the edge of the empire. He was brought back in chains and executed in the same arena where Daniel had defeated. Daniel did not watch. He had seen enough death. After it was over, the Queen called him to a private meeting. Just the 2 of them in a small room far from the throne. She looked tired, old, even though she had lived for 600 years. "You saved my daughter's life," she said, "again. I was just doing my duty." "Your duty?" The Queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are a strange creature, Daniel Cole. I have lived for centuries. I have met thousands of beings from hundreds of species, but I have never met anyone like you. I am just a soldier." "No, you are more than that. You are loyal, truly loyal, not for power, not for gold, but because you believe in something, in someone." Daniel was silent. "I misjudged your kind," the Queen continued. "I thought humans were simple, violent, dangerous like wild animals, but you are dangerous like something else entirely. You are dangerous like fire. You can burn, but you can also give warmth, give light." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the 3 moons were rising. "My daughter loves you," she said. "You know that." Daniel's heart beat faster. "I know." "And you love her." "Yes." "Then you understand the problem." The Queen turned to face him. "You are human. You will age. You will die. In 50 years, maybe less, you will be gone. And my daughter will live for another 1,000 years. She will have to watch you grow old. She will have to bury you. And she will carry that grief for centuries." "I know," Daniel said. "I have thought about it." "And yet you stay." "I would rather give her 50 years of happiness than leave her now to save her from future pain. That is her choice to make, not mine. And she has made it." The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You are a good man, Daniel Cole, a good man and a good champion. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about your species. I will not make that mistake again." She walked past him toward the door. Then she stopped. "Take care of her," she said. "Take care of my daughter, that is all I ask." "I will," Daniel said, "until my last breath." The Queen left, and Daniel stood alone in the moonlight, thinking about the future, thinking about love, thinking about the short time he had left and how he wanted to spend every moment of it. He would protect her. He would stand by her. He would be her champion until the very end. And he would make every day count. 5 years passed on Prime. They were the best 5 years of Daniel Cole's life. He stood at side through everything. He guarded her at court meetings and diplomatic events. He trained the palace guard and taught them human fighting techniques. He became a familiar figure in the capital, the human champion, walking through the streets without fear. The people loved him. Not all of them, but many. Children would run up to him and ask to see his scars. Old soldiers would bow their heads in respect when he passed. Merchants would offer him gifts that he always refused. He had become a legend. But legends grow old too. Daniel saw the signs in his mirror every morning. Silver in his hair, lines on his face, stiffness in his joints that had not been there before. He was 43 years old now. For a human, that was not old, but compared to the around him, he was aging fast. Never mentioned it. She looked at him the same way she always had, like he was the most precious thing in the universe. But Daniel knew she noticed. She noticed every new line, every gray hair, every moment he moved a little slower than before. He tried not to think about how much time he had left. He focused on the present instead. And the present was about to change forever. Queen announced her abdication on the first day of winter. She had ruled for 600 years. She was tired. She wanted to rest. And she believed her daughter was ready. "Will be crowned on the winter solstice," the queen declared. "She will rule the empire with wisdom and strength. I have no doubt of this." The court was shocked. Successions usually took years to plan. This was sudden, but no one argued with the queen. Was terrified. "I am not ready," she told Daniel that night. "I do not know how to be a queen." "You have been preparing your whole life." "I have been preparing to be a princess. A queen is something else. A queen makes decisions that affect billions of lives. A queen cannot make mistakes." Daniel took her hand. "Everyone makes mistakes, even queens. What matters is that you try to do what is right, and you always try. I have never met anyone who cares more about her people than you do." Looked at him with tired eyes. "Will you stay with me when I am queen?" "I will stay with you forever." Forever is not very long for a human. Daniel smiled sadly. "Then let me stay for whatever time I have." The coronation was the biggest event in a century. Ships came from every corner of the empire. Ambassadors arrived from dozens of species. The Galactic Council sent a formal delegation. Even Earth sent a representative, a woman named Santos who had spent her career fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. The ceremony was beautiful. Walked down a long path lined with flowers. She wore a white dress that flowed like water. The crown was placed on her head by her mother, who smiled for perhaps the first time in years. "Rise, queen," the queen mother said. "Rule with honor, rule with love, rule for your people." Rose, and a cheer went up that shook the walls of the palace. Daniel watched from the front row. His heart was full of pride and joy and something else, something like sadness. This was her moment, her destiny, and he was so proud to have been part of her journey. Then held up her hand. The crowd fell silent. "I have an announcement to make," she said, her voice carried across the great hall. "My first act as queen." The court waited. Some expected a new law, others expected a declaration of policy. No one expected what came next. "For 5 years a human has stood at my side. He has guarded me, he has protected me, he has loved me, and I have loved him." Whispers raced through the crowd. Daniel felt his face grow hot. "I know what many of you think," continued. "A human and it should not work. Our lives are too different. Our times are too unequal. He will die and I will live on for centuries." She looked directly at Daniel. Her golden eyes were bright with emotion. "But I have learned something from my human champion. I have learned that love is not measured in years. It is measured in moments, in choices, in the courage to give yourself to someone completely, knowing that one day you will have to say goodbye." She stepped down from the throne. She walked toward Daniel. Every eye in the hall watched her. "Daniel Cole," she said, "you have been my guardian, my protector, my friend, but I do not want you to be just my champion anymore." Daniel stood. His heart was beating so hard he could barely breathe. "I want you to be my partner," said, "my equal, my king." The hall exploded with noise. Some people cheered, some gasped, some shouted in anger, a human as king. It was unthinkable, it was impossible. It was happening. "I cannot give you centuries," Daniel said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I can only give you decades, maybe less, but every day I have, every breath I take will be for you. I loved you when you were a princess. I will love you as a queen, and I will love you until the stars themselves go dark." Smiled. It was the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. "Is that a yes?" "That is a yes." She kissed him then, in front of the entire court, in front of ambassadors from 100 worlds, in front of her mother and the Galactic Council, and everyone who had ever doubted that a human and a could love each other. The cheers drowned out the protests. The joy drowned out the anger. Not everyone was happy, but enough were, enough believed in what they were seeing. A new era was beginning. That evening, after the crowds had gone and the celebrations had died down, Daniel and stood together on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Lights twinkled in every window. Music drifted up from the streets below. "The Galactic Council ambassador asked me about you," said. "She wanted to know how a human earned such loyalty, such trust." "What did you tell her?" "I told her you earned it the same way anyone earns it, through action, through sacrifice, through being there when it mattered most." She leaned against him, and he put his arm around her. "She asked me one more question," said. "She asked who guards me so fiercely." "And what did you say?" Looked up at him. The 3 moons made silver light on her face. She looked like a dream. She looked like everything he had ever wanted. "My champion," she whispered. Daniel held her close. He thought about everything they had been through, the crash in the garden, the oath, the duel, the assassination, all the nights they had talked until dawn, all the moments that had brought them here. He was just a soldier from a small planet. She was a queen of an empire that spanned the stars. They had no business being together. Every law of the galaxy said it should not work. But it did, because love does not follow laws. Love writes its own rules. "I never expected this," Daniel said quietly. "When I crashed in your garden, I thought I was going to die. I thought my life was over. Instead, it was just beginning." "We found each other," said. "Against all odds, across all the distance between our worlds, we found each other." "Yes, we did." They stood there in the moonlight, the human and the queen, and watched the stars together. Somewhere out there was Earth, a small blue planet where Daniel had been born. He would probably never see it again. But he was not sad, because he had found something better than a home. He had found a person. He had found his purpose. He was her champion, her king, her love. And he would be those things until his very last breath. In the years that followed, people told stories about them. They told stories about the soldier who fell from the sky and won the heart of a princess. They told stories about the queen who dared to love across the boundaries of species and time. They told stories about a human who showed the galaxy what courage really meant. Some stories are too big to be forgotten. This was one of them.